This is Lucid with
Popbot.
We're bringing you another episode after that crazy episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, what? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of, that was kind of the first times where I was like, whoa, that caught me by surprise because I didn't expect it to be like right there in the streets.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen one way or another. I like how they um put it into the world, into our current world, because this is the way things go down now. So that anything that happens publicly, somebody is recording it. So I really like that aspect of it, especially it's based on everything that's happening today in America, today around the world with law enforcement, people of authority, um, and we all knew that the new Captain America was
But,
going to lose it.
yeah,
Right?
he was unhinged. It was clear.
Yeah, they were telegraphing that, which is, but I also like that they're not just making it as simple as he's a bad guy, he's unhinged. This is someone who's dedicated his life to serving his country as a special ops soldier, and he's been under tons of pressure, and now they've actually upped the game. So, the regular psyche can't hack that. And I love the part that they added again. They reminded us of what they said in several past appearances or discussions of Captain America from the first movie, right? Um, where they said the super soldier serum just makes you more of what you already are.
A good man, not a good soldier. Like that's what he wanted. The original scientist wanted a good man, not a good soldier.
Yeah.
And like and people were mentioning how Walker was actually kind of the person that Tommy Lee Jones' character wanted, right? I'm sure was looking for the perfect soldier, right? But it showed that and then all of, like the things that they reference back to him, where it's like, have you ever jumped? He's like, you ever jump on a live grenade? Yeah. Like with the helmet thing, it was like had a special lining, and it's just like that there. Like, no, Steve was ready to die right there.
Yeah, so I like that. I like that they put that in there. Um, again, I saw it coming, and I forgot how John Walker turns out in the comic book. I feel like I'm so behind.
He becomes like, from what, like, the research I have done and like the bit I've read, he becomes U.S. agent, right? So he becomes sort of like the Frank Castle of Captain America when and I think they do eventually give it to but it also takes place in different times, right? This John Walker, he's such an old character, and they're kind of bringing him back in today's age. So I know, like, there's one plot line where he actually comes and takes this shield back from Falcon, but this was during the plot line of when Captain America is being controlled by Hydra, and it's, all types of things, but it'll be interesting how they bring in the relation to the power broker, because him giving his powers, like, from the vial is sort of like, I guess, a nod to the fact that the power broker gave him his powers. But he kind of, at least in the, like, I remember reading it back then, he was kind of like his lackey a bit, right? Where he kind of backed up the power broker when Steve and Falcon went to take him down.
Oh, you mean in the
old school, yeah, like in the old school comics, I think they went to go take down the power broker because, like, he was giving powers to, like, the wrestlers and Miss Marvel, but also addicting them and using them to commit crimes. So when he went to go take him down, John Walker and Battlestar went there to kind of, fight them, to be like, no, this, we owe him. So
yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how that might be the case. And even Miss Marvel, the original Miss Marvel, who she got the powers, her name is Sharon. So I'm wondering if Sharon Carter is going to kind of fill that role. And be like, that's why she's like, we have a problem, that really she actually works for the power broker. Because she keeps mentioning things like the person that makes it is gone. Like, they kind of framing it as if she's just kind of the ear to the ground. But part of me is kind of feeling like she wants them to find these vials for the power broker because that's her boss, not just because she's worried about like, you know, Madripoor falling apart, but because she's you know, that's her boss, and part of, you know, she's one of the people trying to get it back, but she's just doing it smartly or covertly. So I don't know. It's interesting how they really incorporate the power broker outside of just constantly mentioning him as some ominous figure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see who's gonna actually be playing the power broker. I haven't looked at IMDb. Have you, to see who the
No,
power broker is?
I don't go that far into like, let's figure it out, you know, stuff like that. I try to, yeah, and even nowadays, like, is Disney's being pretty good. Because otherwise people would have known that Evan Peters was gonna be in WandaVision if they're, you know, just publicizing that out there, right? For it to be on his IMDb, somebody would have seen it by now. But the fact is that he showed up in just about everybody. Even my mind was blown. This shows the fact that they're really doing what they can to make sure that nobody knew this was happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if they
smart.
just...
Yeah, they're pretty smart about how they do things, for sure.
So you know, and all that stuff is public information. It's not like, you know, or insider. So if they're smart about it, I can see them just not letting us, like, just not listing the power broker anywhere, and then it's fucking John Hamm or something, right?
Oh, really? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's supposed to be in this season too.
Is
Yeah, I like what they did with the Dora Milaje.
Is John Hamm supposed to be in the season? I was literally pulling a name out my ass.
Yeah, or am I mixing him up with another show?
I don't know, but I was just pulling a name like I said, because he's the kind of figure where it would be a big deal to kind of have a cameo like the power broker, and it's someone menacing and powerful, like someone like Mad Men's John Hamm, right? But also it would be a big deal to make sure that nobody knows that John Hamm is even in an MCU thing, right? So no one even suspects it. So that's how I see it. That would be what they do if they're going to. But we only have 2 more episodes left. Like this season is much shorter than WandaVision.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's only like 2, maybe 3 episodes left. They're supposed to be like, when I first looked, I was like, wow, it's really short. But then when you see the very first episode, it makes sense. Like that very first scene, they put money into it, so they had a lot more money to stretch out with WandaVision than they did with the Falcon. If, let's say, they all got similar budgets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, I'm looking at IMDb. That's why I'm a little distracted. I need to not look at this stuff while we're doing this. But yeah, I got what you're saying. I didn't know it was only going to be 2 more episodes. Hopefully they don't mess it up.
Nah, I mean, they wouldn't. The fact is,
trying to rush things.
I feel like they are more likely to extend things than rush things, right? They're especially their lineup has seemed so precise. They've embraced the fact that coronavirus is like, this is it, okay? We're gonna try to get some things out the theaters, but Black Widow's coming out on fucking Disney Plus. All right, we give up. Like, remember, for a long time they really didn't want that. But they kind of gave up on that, and they're like, fine, it's gonna happen, forget it. So now they're just, and I'm pretty sure they're doing that to stick to their lineup, to being like, we are releasing something just about every week, and we're leading up, and we're trying to lead up to these big movies. So I can see that.
Yeah, I think it's a good tactic. I think they are acknowledging that this virus has changed the world and changed the way we consume media, and it only makes sense. You know, it just rushed to the end. It just rushed the inevitable. You know, people are spending $2,000 on 4K 7.1 Dolby surround sound televisions in their homes, 68-inch or 80 inches. Right.
I mean, that's building a home theater is not trivial anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
Or it is trivial. It is trivial. It's like, it's pretty
exactly.
easy.
exactly. And if you really want to go for it, you can drop 5K and come away with an amazing system. So if you have this in your home, do you want to, you and the wife going out, right? You and the girl going out, um, to a movie theater that's not a matinee, going out to see the movies on a Friday night or something. You got to deal with the getting there, you got to deal with getting back, your parking your car, and then walk in the movie theater just to sit down. You're gonna drop about 25, $30, right? I don't even know how much a full price movie ticket is these days.
Yeah,
And
it's
then, but
definitely
I
like
remember
$15 at this point around here.
exactly. And then if you want to get a bucket of popcorn, which everybody does,
So it's like
right?
$20
Bucket
in
of
itself.
popcorn.
Just the popcorn,
Exactly.
just the popcorn is $20.
Exactly. For you, well, you get a free refill. It's like who's gonna come out in the middle of the movie and get a free refill
Right?
of their giant bucket of popcorn?
Unless you're like my mom, well, if you're black, like my mom and Aunt Jenny, they'll be like, get the free refill, and then we going back to the car. Bye. I paid for that free
I
refill.
hear you. I hear you. So it's like, you know, this was inevitable. I do believe that there are some movies. Um,
That need to be seen on, like King Kong is probably one of those had to be seen in like a 4D seat to really be any kind of enjoyable. I'm sure.
did you watch King Kong?
No, but I've seen like stuff and like the breakdowns. It saves me a lot of time of being frustrated at a movie and just being like, oh, so that's why I would have been frustrated at it. Cool,
Yeah.
because sometimes I don't agree, and I'm like, I might have watched that, but then I'd be like, nah, I would have been frustrated at this.
So I watch movies for the entertainment value, and there's different ways to measure that. Sometimes it's the artistry in what you see on the screen. Sometimes it's the depth of the story, how it affects you. Sometimes it's the talent of the actors, special effects, so on and so forth. And so I don't rate all movies. I don't measure all movies equally against each other because, if you want a cup of coffee, you're going to get a cup of coffee. And if you want an orange juice, you're going to get an orange juice. You don't compare the two drinks to each other because even though they're both beverages, they're very different beverages, right? So there's that. I could watch King Kong versus Godzilla maybe in a giant movie theater with the sound
The vibrating
and
chairs.
I love that. I know it never took off, but I love the tilting and the vibrating chairs, and I think it's great for some types of movies. And it's worth it. It's worth the extra 10, 15
Yeah,
bucks,
when we saw
right,
in
to have an
Pacific Rim, that
experience.
was awesome. It was a movie
That
that was
was
made for that.
so awesome. It was so awesome. And and the problem with King Kong and Godzilla, I still do get surprised, even though I don't rate all movies together. I am surprised when a movie with such a massive budget is done so poorly. Like the the story itself, I feel like they couldn't figure out what story they really wanted to tell, or they had a outline of a story, but they couldn't figure out how to translate it from the paper to the screen effectively. And it's like the monsters were good and what they were doing were awesome. Every human in that movie, you spent the entire time trying to figure out what they were doing, why they were there, what they were talking about. It's like it was ridiculous some of the things that you saw happen. And again, if their target audience was a bunch of 10-year-olds, perfect movie. If that's their target audience, and if you're gonna send it straight to HBO, that makes sense also, right? You can say that this is a family movie, send it to HBO, and all the kids can watch it on spring break or during the summer. Um, but this is not a movie that's gonna get much love from anyone above the age of 20. So it's just it's to me it seems like such a, I don't know, oversight, failure, or did they purposely do this? Because you see so many movies that are done well, that I have got a long list of movies that I would watch over and over again today that were designed for kids per se because it was a well-crafted story and good lines and really ridiculous things weren't happening outside the context of the entire movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's my little segue into that. It's just it's like there's so much potential, so
Review
much amazing
review segment.
potential. It's like, but that's just my opinion. I didn't say anything in there that would be spoilers. It's just,
Yeah.
and again, I would sit down with my god kids, right, or future grandkids, and I'd watch King Kong versus Godzilla again. Um, but I'm not gonna go I'm not gonna go to the movie theater and pay to see it again. I would pay to go see Avengers Endgame again, you
Yeah.
know, and I would pay to go see Snyder Cut in a full movie theater, when the world is back to some semblance of normalcy.
I'm sure they're gonna do
So
that at some point. Have some
I
like
would pay to
tour.
see that, and I would definitely love to see. I don't know if that movie would work in 4D, but I would love to be able to watch the Snyder Cut for a second or third time using my Oculus, using 360 view, and just look around that amazing world that Zack Snyder was crafting. That would be amazing.
I mean that would have to like that would be kind of crazy. I mean, like I said, for all we know, Lucid Kitty would be the like that sounds like something I would do is try to make a whole movie that you can also watch in VR. But that's also hard to like. It's so hard to design it because we saw that with YouTube. And they're not getting on a huge tangent about other things. We could do that the other show, but is when they did 3D, everybody was trying to do it. Was trying to like come up with their like what's a cool 3D video, and some people did it well, especially some of the veterans and like special effect videos, YouTube videos. The top guys like Corridor Digital and Freddie Wong, a Rocket Jump. Uh, they did it. They did it well, but there's something like the first thing you learn. One of the first things you learn in film school, like when you learn film, is just the purpose of directing, right? Like your purpose as a director is that you control what the audience sees, right? They
Hmm.
can't see anything outside of that frame, and your job is to tell the story within that frame. And there shouldn't be anything in there by accident. So when you think about that, and when normally you only have, at one point it was 4:3, and now it's 16:9, or maybe IMAX format. But now think about 360 degrees up, down, like everything is supposed to be, like everything should be important. And it's like, how do you direct people's visuals to the point? How do you keep them from looking at some shit in the background that doesn't matter? Right? And miss all the context of what's really happening in front of what should be in front of them, right?
I
Uh,
agree. I mean, I can see the challenges, but I think um, we sometimes get too accustomed to doing things one way. So I understand what you're saying that they teach you in film school. And again, I'm talking about something I know nothing about, right? You got to control the audience view, and it's a 180-degree world, right? When you're watching a movie.
not even
Um,
180 degree, because you get a view like that whole cliche, put a box up and with your fingers in front of your face. That's like a legit thing, because that's like, okay, what do I see right here,
yeah,
right? And
yeah. So
it's so you're really limiting your view, and that's in your and what the audience can see. I think
So
one of the
yes, let me correct myself.
yeah,
Is that, but to get to the point,
yeah.
yes, you're limiting the audience's view to what's important, and you have a small amount of time to tell your story. So you want to fill that time wisely, and control the narrative. But we live in a 360-degree world. Our daily existences, even though our stories are mundane, but our existence is one long 360-degree story. And we take the important input and we use that, right? And I think you can make a movie, and again, I'm talking about something I know nothing about. I think that you can craft a movie that is in a 360-degree world and have the characters talking to you in that limited view, and you can turn around and look at what's going on behind you as those characters are walking away, right? And it can still add significant contents. And again, it's another piece of I guess type of entertainment. But I mean, I would put more things there, maybe.
But
But
here's because you're not wrong, right? You're not wrong. Yes, that's the world we live in. But you got to think of like how often like do people like miss something that's happening right next to them, right? You're looking somewhere and I was like, and you're like, and you just see like a mangled mess of cars. You're like, what the fuck just happened,
that's what
right? And
makes the idea of a
but
360-degree movie really
yes,
amazing.
yes, it
I
makes
love
it
the thought
amazing.
of just
But here's the issue though. How do you tell a story with it? It's hard to tell. One of the few things that do that, there's a medium that actually does do that, but it also shows why it's hard. Why when you take it back from it, or when you kind of take a step back from that world, it makes it really hard to make good. And that's video games. Video games are, it's like something I had to explain to mom, where it's like it is art, right? And she's like, that's not. I'm like, of course it's art. It's like Pixar's art. Like we're literally creating a world, crafting stories, all from scratch, and have to make it entertaining and interactable, right? And but often you'll find in things of video, like think about Dead Space, right? Dead Space, you're even in third person, even if it was first person, there are many times where the camera, in most video games, they'll focus, if there's something important going on, they'll force your view there, right? Because something's going on, the explosion's gonna happen, something important to the story is gonna happen, right? And they force your view there, so you might be able to move the camera around, but whatever's happening is still in your general view. But you can't completely turn around and miss the alien that busts through and eats somebody, right? Now certain parts you can, but then it becomes a thing where like, oh, you missed it and it can't happen again, right? Without
yeah,
playing the whole game over again,
I
right?
got you, but but I think you're mixing your entertainment um,
But the reason I say,
types because well, let me talk directly to what you're saying. So let's say you're walking down the street, you're watching a movie, okay? So and it's exactly what you're saying. You hear a car accident, but you're looking off to your left or you're looking to what's in front of you. And that's the frame that the director wants you in because what's happening in front of you is what's important. But there's still a car accident. Now, in this context, what's happening in front of you is important because you're walking, and if you don't look where you're walking, you're gonna fall into a hole or something. But of course, we're gonna add, the we're gonna add the movie magic, like what's in front of you is important because it's part of the story. You hear the accident happen to your right, and you turn, and there's an accident there, but you missed the entire accident. But this is the cool thing about entertainment, and this is what I'm talking about, and this is why it's different from video games because my experience with the Oculus is that I can go back, 2 seconds and I can watch that accident occur, right? And I find that a really cool feature. It's not something you're going to do in a movie theater. It is something that you would do in a 3D experience or a 360 3D experience.
yeah,
Um,
but
and
that's the exact
but
word you're saying. The exact word,
but let me
experience. It's not a movie. It's not a 360 movie. It is a 360 experience, and I think that's
but
the
hold on.
issue that a lot of people have, is that why, like with video games, the problem with making, and I get what you're saying. We go back, but also because we're kind of tangenting. This is good for the other show. I'm just gonna might cut this and be like, so back to the other show, but and put this part of the other show. But video games, the reason it's so hard for a video game movie to be good, is because of you're removing something that's integral to a video game, and that's the agency of the player. The movie, with movies, the audience has no agency. It's a passive experience, right? So it's why when you try to mix those two up, it's really hard to make it work, right? It's very few things, and you have to be very particular about it, right? So it's hard to make it'd be hard to make an industry around that, where it's just movies, whereas as opposed to, let's say, Oculus experiences, VR experiences, because those are very done well, right? But you wouldn't necessarily call that a movie, right? You wouldn't necessarily be able to take that apart and make a movie out of these experiences, right?
So I think that it would be difficult, but I see several use cases. You know, we're often watching movies and um, Knives Out, for instance, where once the detective is explaining what happened, they go back and show you all of these flashbacks, right? And they show you these little things that you missed or weren't even in the frame at the time, but they were occurring. Um, and there's several other examples of movies that um, there's a mystery, there's a puzzle occurring,
Yeah.
and and a thing is, I don't think watching a movie today is nearly as passive as it used to be. That's why the audience is so demanding, because audiences, the modern audience, the modern mature audience, figures out what's going to happen in a movie before it's done. So it's incumbent on the director to surprise that audience member, right? They are more involved in the movie. So I could see these things being used, but I understand that it would be very difficult. It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of writing, and a lot of execution. But you're right. We should probably move on to.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's a great point. But I think, like I said, I think that's just where it shows the difference between, Knives Out. As someone again who originally wanted to be a filmmaker and grew up wanted to be a filmmaker, Knives Out is a great example of what filmmakers are trying to achieve with those moments, right? Where we're doing it in front of you, those M. Night Shyamalan stuff. It is in front of you, right? But we're so good at doing our magician redirecting your attention over here that you don't realize what's going on here, right? But you still don't have that agency in the moment to control, like, hey, let me stop, and what's going on back there. You're still focused on the story, and I think that's what makes filmmaking so great, is the ability to capture the attention and hold the attention and manipulate that attention how you want it. The great thing about video games is the ability to create a world that is engaging to the audience and that they want to engage or participate and imagine themselves in. And Oculus is think VR, not Oculus, but VR is good medium in between that, where they've been trying that for a long time and finally got there, where you can blend that experience, that engagement with some agency, but it's still hard in a VR environment to remove the agency. And the whole thing about movies is that the audience doesn't have active agency. And yes, that has changed because we become more sophisticated. It's, as we become more sophisticated, directors are becoming more, have to become smarter and more knowledgeable about that sophisticated and about our audience knowledge of filmmaking, to be able to push the medium forward. But the fact is that it's still, when the movie's there's nothing you can do about it, right? The audience's agency is outside of it, right? Do we like it or not? Our fandom, especially now everything's a franchise, our fandom connected to it, those are our agencies to it, and whether we will like it or not. But it's still very much this is my work, enjoy it, and that is it.
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
Yeah, but anyways, back to yes. But one thing I think things are great in terms of why filmmaking and that lack of agency is things like Invincible. Invincible is so good, right? And I know you love the comic, so I was like, man, this is a good, this is probably gonna be good. But man, I'm really glad that you really didn't not only let me know, but I hadn't looked into anything about it, right? Because as opposed to the analysis videos and the research I do, I've never researched into Invincible. So to the scene of, and spoilers for everyone that hasn't seen Invincible, skip to this time mark. But when he came through in Red Rush, seeing and having to push Immortal out of the way before he just decimates everybody, it is just wow. And it makes and now I get what you mean about when you're relating to Justice League and stuff, and how it's kind of a lampoon or kind of a serious take of really just how OP Superman is compared to everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah. So I loved Invincible. I believe it's one of the few comic titles that I have, I think, every book from beginning to end. So that's one thing about Invincible. That's how much I loved Invincible. And
Is it that
it's a
long?
complete
Is it
story.
that long to be like to have been like, wow, you have that many? Because like Walking Dead. Walking Dead is that every single one is that's a wall of there's a wall of comics. Walking Dead,
Yeah.
right? The graphic novels.
Yeah, I think I have almost I think I have an entire long box of Invincible.
Jeez,
I
yeah,
think I
okay,
have almost every
that's
every
hard.
uh every Invincible comic. When I discovered it back in when it first came out, I don't even know how I discovered. I think Travis actually turned me on to it, and then I went ahead and started getting the digital version, and then I started buying them. So, anyways, so I've always loved Invincible. I love the way that Kirkman told the story, and Mark starts off as a teenager in the comic book, and I love that we actually watched him grow up. You know, you sometimes, and maybe that's what kept me buying the comic book, because I've seen Peter Parker as a 20-something-year-old guy since I
Forever.
was 11, right?
Right?
So,
And now we're doing the even worse part where we're seeing him in high school for the last 10 years.
yeah, exactly. So there was an attractiveness to actually watching this hero grow up and mature. Um, but Kirkman's cartoon takes it to the next level, because there were things in the comic books, and you can see, in my opinion, right? I see that as a writer, he decided that if I had another swing at this, I would do it better. These are the things I would change, and
Like so far, like
what
what things like have happened, as opposed to things that happen later on. What's different.
so Invincible's father, right? Number one, he's being voiced by a great actor.
J.K.
Um,
Simmons, amazing
yeah.
always.
So, and it's great
His
to, it's like
deadpanness of
that.
things is so great too. You're gonna catch him
Yes.
eventually.
So understanding how powerful Invincible's father is, you didn't really, I don't feel like I got it in the comic book. But again, I read it years and years ago, and maybe I just missed it. I didn't understand that. One other thing, so they spend time showing you just how um, powerful he is, right? Omni-Man is. And the other thing is, I felt like before the big event happens, which is coming, you,
So big things are happening still. Like we're like
oh yeah,
okay, all
oh
right,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So up
so
until
so
that
the
point, so like what were you saying?
so I don't know if Kirkman did this purposely in the book before the big event. There was no setup. You literally did not see it happening, right? And
So the
so I
fact,
guess I could say,
so like the fact that like I believe that he's gonna be because it's theory cast. So like I believe I kind of called it from like I think the first episode like something seemed strange and I was like I don't think he's here to help. I think he's an invader. I think he's here to like Invader
you
Zim
saw
this
that
shit.
from the first episode.
Yeah, cause he was all like, and then we go to planets. To me, it screamed Invader Zim vibes.
Okay,
Like,
so
like send him to a planet, inhabit the planet, and then we're gonna come and fuck shit up, right? Eventually, once we realize your defenses. Like the fact is, like, oh, they have the guns, like the presidents, and I'm all like, dude, this whole thing screams the nightmare of Lex Luthor. That humanity has become weak, and we've set shit up for Superman to take over.
so the first big event already happened, which is, again, spoilers for those who haven't watched it. You want to jump over this, is him
Decimating the
killing,
Guardians.
yeah, killing all of the Guardians, right?
Not killing,
Um,
decimate. Like, oh my god, that scene. Oh,
yes. So so that's the first thing, but you didn't really see that coming in the comic book. And I like that they, in the cartoon, they give you a few more indicators, but it's still a surprise for anyone who hadn't read the book. I'm sure you were surprised when you saw that happen. But what they're doing now between Mark and his father is they're showing you this relationship, and trying to get you to understand what his father's trying to do. You know, I
Which
feel. I
you
mean,
know,
I
like
already
get him.
know.
I think, you know, get him ready for, you know, you're going to help me. Boom. Take at first, because at first I won't say I was immediately quick. At first I thought like his anger, like it seemed to his annoyingness at the fact that he got his powers, kind of be like, what is this shift? Why does all of a sudden he seem pissed off that he has powers now? And it was just all like, is it like a Black Widow thing, like a your kids come and eat you shit? Like now that he has powers, you're gonna lose your mind. And at first that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that like he lost his mind, you know, like when he first came in to, like, you know, try to kill the mortals. I was like, that's it, I called it. Like his kid having powers causes them to lose their mind or something. And I was like, well, maybe that doesn't make sense, like, because then the whole planet would be crazy, right? And then after he you know, he's just the beating up. I'm like, maybe he's trying to. Is there there could only be one situation? And if that's the case, why? Does he want to get? Oh shit! Is he getting rid of any super? This guy sucks.
So, Kirkman writes good stories. I mean, so I know the answers, at least based on the comic books, to all of those questions, but I'm not going to give them to you. I want you to enjoy the cartoon, and that's what kept me reading the comic book is his.
Which will make it great. If I'm that off,
questions.
if I'm way off, that's amazing. That's like I said, it's not often that I'm completely way off the bat with shit. So if I'm like way off, like how this is going to turn out, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, and what's also cool is like there's a level of comedy, there's a level of seriousness, there's a level of, you know, I love how they're portraying his mother. She's getting a much bigger role in it than she did in the comic book, which I think is extremely important.
Pasty
and
loves like her strong ass. Like, I'm sorry, what? Yes. Yeah, that make you feel powerful?
She Kirkman, I think, brought her more into the comic book later on, because he realized like how important like showing her story relates to the development of Mark, right? The development of Invincible. So this is something that's really cool, dude. The things that he does in this story, I kept getting blown away. I was like, what? So it's gonna be an interesting journey. I can't wait for it to happen. There's some stuff that happens like Kirkman's stories.
Well, like, it's the Walking Dead guy. I'm like, people sleep on the fact because most people are used to like the show, and he doesn't write the show. So they're not. Most people aren't used to the fact that like, no, his writing is like you have to put that shit down sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Walking Dead, put it down and just walk away.
Dark issues of that comic book that you're like, oh my god. I mean, there's a couple of those issues that I went to bed and I was like having nightmares. It's like some of the imagery in there.
But the worst part is not far fetched. It's you're like, I hate
it.
And I think and that's what
all.
Makes me say that's why what made it worse is like some of those things were like, I could really see people doing this. Yes. Oh my god. I want a bunker. Exactly. I want a bunker. I want all the guns.
And that's the scary part is because you can see people doing this, and he does the same thing in Invincible. But imagine a world of superpowered beings, a universe
like the boys, but taking it even more.
So again. Okay, I don't want to say anything that's even a little bit spoilerish, but imagine a universe of superpowered beings, and Kirkman writes the way he writes. Like, he gave you the worst scary. Reality of The Walking Dead. Yeah.
Because even the boys, because I don't know if you finished the boys, but like even the boys try to do that, and like I think it's Mark Miller, right? Mark Miller writes wrote the boys, like, and he does well, but it's like so often I've noticed, especially growing up now, so much of his stories focuses on like sex and like sex and violence of things, right? And not just like the just straight twistedness, right, of humanity, right? Like so much like the boys was just like, look how much these superheroes have sex and hypocritical and they're botcherous, as opposed to just be like, nah, these are twisted individuals that have all the power in the world.
So
I think the show might be doing a little bit better, I feel like, than the comic actually did in terms of showing some of that.
so here so here's where we differ, right? Mark Miller is great at writing stories about the human condition, right? Like, not the human condition, that's the wrong phrase. Writing stories related to how we are and what is important to us as humans, like showing our worst qualities and our best qualities, like Kick-Ass, right? Dude, Kick-Ass was so good,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
But it has so
like
much
in the
sex
first
again,
six.
so much unneeded sex that they removed. You know, just some. And I get it, but it was just kind of like looking back. I'm like, it's kind of
Okay,
crude. Some of these things are
so
kind of crude,
so
man.
so he there's a lot of sex in his books, right? But I think it's because he understands humanity. Like, we're sexually driven and we're driven by power and we like nice things, right? So, in Kick-Ass, here's a nerd. All of a sudden, he becomes a quote unquote hero with no powers, but he has the intestinal fortitude, the balls to go after what he wants and stop crime in his area,
Also,
and he
can't feel
becomes
shit.
yeah, and he becomes mega powerful, right? So so and him, I mean, mega popular, and just him becoming that popular, girls are throwing themselves at him. But let's talk about heroes, right? It's like, I mean, he is just turning up to 11 what happens today. You're a nerd walking around school, and not even a nerd, just a regular person. You get your degree, you invent something, you create something, you have the balls to do something no one else is doing. It makes you famous, and it's life changing. And how do you handle that, right? So, how do you handle that if you're born with these powers and you're better than everybody, right? You're better than the basic person. Um, and also, how do you handle that if it happens to you overnight? So if you wake up and you have super speed and heightened intelligence and heightened perception, how long does it take for you to start just deciding you're owed more or you deserve more? And how are you going to get that more? I'm just going to take it. Who's going to stop me? You know? So, and
You know
it's,
what? You're
but
making a great
Marvel,
point. It's great about he writes corruption. He writes human corruption very well,
mhm.
right? I think that's where
So
because I even remember because Kick-Ass, the story about Big Daddy and like how that was a little fucked up, really. Big
mhm.
Daddy story's a little fucked up. The story of the gangs, right?
But I
And
think what
then
Mark Millar and Kirkman are doing is he's not writing a story of humans being corrupted. I think they're saying that we are all corrupt and
no,
we are just
but I mean that.
hold
Oh
on
yeah,
one
yeah,
second.
yeah, yeah.
We're all corrupt and we're just um showing that corruptness to the level that our abilities allow us to show us. And the amazing people, there's only a few of us. There's only a few amazing of us, a few real superheroes, and that superpower is not the power itself. That superpower is being able to resist the corruption, right? To not be corrupt, to not become John Walker versus Steve Rogers. Marvel is telling that story differently, and they're focusing on the goodness in everybody. Millar and Kirkman are focusing on we're all bad, and our own
Well,
the few superheroes are those few who are good.
well,
Okay,
I won't speak for
that's
the rest of Invincible because you might be right. Like Invincible might be like, okay, yeah, yeah, no, I get that. But like in terms of Millar, in terms of like the boys, because I have finished the boys. I can't remember if you have, but
I haven't yet.
um like he does well. Like you said, the corruption of that, how we are corrupted. Even the good ones of us are still kind of shitty, right? Because in the end, like I don't want to spoil what happens to everyone in the boys, but it's like it's not great. Things aren't great. Like things turn out okay, but it's still like, yeah, okay, come on, guys. Like Billy Butcher is Billy Butcher, right? And it sounded like this is supposed to be our main guy, right? Or the guy we're like, this is fighting for us, but he's kind of a dick, and he's also very corrupted, right? He has his own issues. But like what Vought, he does things great, like things like Vought, right? How corruption runs through everything in us, and like you said, the turning up to 11. but Kirkman does the great corruption of like the inside, right? Where how like seemingly, you know, normal people can be twisted into these dark people because of situations, right? Because of power, because of struggle, because of death. Um, Seemingly good people can be twisted into, and even people with good intentions can be turned into people like the governor, right? I think Kirkman does that really well.
Are you still watching The Walking Dead?
I'm not watching it anymore. No, I finished the comic and I stopped watching it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard
yeah.
the last episode was good, but I haven't watched it.
It's a commitment to get back into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Especially so long. Especially I'm sure for you, like, cause I stopped around like not near quote unquote the end of near Negan saga, but he's still around and shit, doing shit. But I don't know. So, and they've gone so off the path of The Walking Dead. I think that's also why it's just, when they killed, as you know, like when they killed Carl, I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. So anyways, back to Invincible. Um, I love the way he's telling the story. He has, no kidding, improved on the comic book, in my opinion. Or maybe it's just that a lot of people do not successfully, you've heard me say this before, they're not successfully able to transition the story on the page, which can be an amazing story, to the story on the screen, right? And maybe it's easier with comic books because there's already a visual medium there, but he is telling a better story. Um, and he's doing a better setup. So as you learn more, and he does, I'm thinking about what is to come, and it's just so amazing and again so off the wall. And there's always been this lampoonish quality coupled with the seriousness of the book, coupled with, hey, this is a 17-year-old kid, and I love that. It reminds me of the Harry Potter story, right? The first Harry Potter's about a bunch of grade school kids, but
It
those
ends on
children
adults.
mature. Yeah, they end as adults, but their life changes, right? The same stupid things that were happening when they were 10, they weren't doing that. And this is the big mistake I think comics make. And I understand they want to live forever and they want to represent every generation, right? But you get tired of seeing 17-year-old Peter Parker, have the same arguments with Flash Thompson. And so this book is based on 17-year-old Mark, right? Invincible. And he grows up and he starts having more adult issues and situations. There's some stuff that's coming that is bonkers town. And I absolutely loved it. And I cannot wait to see it brought to the big screen. And from what I've seen so far and the way that he's doing it, dude, it's like I
Yeah,
hate
dude.
that I have to wait.
Some of those
Um,
animations, like that this is not your planet to conquer, and then I was like,
yeah.
oh, whoa, ow.
Oh, dude,
Ugh.
dude, it's like I said, since you haven't read it, I just don't want to say anything
Yeah.
more because I
It
don't want
makes
to
it hard
do
for
any
it
kind
makes
of
it hard for a
setup.
theory. It makes it hard for a theory show when one person already knows, like, well, this is supposed to happen, and one of them actually is interested in being like, no, I kind of want to be surprised for once if they're actually
Yeah.
gonna surprise me, because
So
like,
this is something. So what you're just saying is how I always feel when I go to the movies. And I try and immerse myself into what's happening in front of me, right? And I have friends that spend the entire time watching the movie trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And I'm like, just relax and enjoy the movie. Enjoy what's the entertainment that you're being that's being presented to you. And then they leave the movie and they're smart folks, right? And they figure out the movie and they're like, oh, I saw that coming. I knew it was happening. And I'm like, but how about that scene where this and this happened? Wasn't that amazing? And they were like, yeah, it was nice. And I'm like, dude, do you know the work that just went into that scene? That just what was portrayed to us? It's like
yeah,
you were so busy trying to figure out what's going to happen next in the movie that you just missed this, amazing battle scene or this
Yeah.
amazing, special effects scene, or you miss the amazing interaction between the two characters. For example, I knew what was going to happen in this I knew eventually that John Walker was going to go bad, and how, and I was pretty sure he was going to kill someone. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling it.
No,
But
no.
what was
Well, I mean,
amazing, what I
yeah,
found
I'm sure I've
amazing,
heard.
is that last scene was
That oh yeah,
awesome. Was
that pan that tilt up, blood on the bottom of the
that's
shield, and his
blood on the
resolve,
shield,
and his
something
resolve like
you've never
tightening
seen.
it on his arm, like not even just like and that was the thing that said it is like not just the whole. He was like, oh no, what it was just the resolve, right?
Yes.
And is like, but also the great thing about like the picture it paints, the fact that, except remembering, like, I'm pissed off too. I like Lamar. His name might have been stupid, but that was my man. and I was
For
like,
sure.
I was like, you know what,
But
Carly? And I was arguing with Pasty earlier because he's like, I feel for. I'm like, no, because Carly wants to kill people and stuff like that. Is like she's no longer noble, and she's just like, that whole line. He's like, and I'll kill. And they're just people in my way. And he's like, wow, I didn't mean that.
yeah,
I'm like, okay, right. And then for me, and then when I saw like when he got himself out of the I was like, no, don't kill my man Lamar, no. And I was like, oh, that the zoom in they gave on his face. I was like, fuck,
yeah.
that's that death zoom.
But
Damn
you
it.
see, and I love that they did that. I'm sad that Battlestar had to go. Very sad. But I love that they did that, and I love that they spent 2.5 episodes setting up their close relationship. And it also brings me back to what we talked about last week or the first week, that you cannot hang out with superheroes, right? I think it's
and
crazy for them to
and
make
either
a
not
new
get
Captain
powers or die.
America. Exactly. You don't make a new Captain America and send him into the field with just a shield. You don't do that. Not against the forces that you have seen are arrayed against you. So now you send two of these guys who are not overpowered, who are not superpowered, against superpowered individuals, right?
And a
Um,
pistol will be enough. Just give him a
exactly.
secret pistol.
Yeah. So that's one thing, but also they spent the time showing you the relationship that these two gents, like John Walker's not a quote unquote bad guy, right?
He,
What would you
yeah.
do if you saw the person that you'd
Oh
survived
hell no,
wars
hell
with,
no.
who's
I was like, kill that
probably
woman,
saved your
kill him.
life?
I was like, find him or
Yeah.
kill her. I was like,
Yeah.
take their head off. I was immediately like, kill him.
It's
How dare you kill that black man?
yeah, it's like
He had a good heart.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Battlestar was a good guy. He was a good guy. He was John
He was the
Walker's
only thing.
conscience,
He
and
was like he
they
was the one thing that's keeping him from going over the edge.
yeah, and they killed his conscience, and here we go. This is what you get, right?
I do also appreciate that like everyone's face as soon as she killed him, like everyone was like, oh, you fucked up. And then everyone ran. Like there was no fight. It was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mom. He's like,
yeah.
you hit your brother and you're like, ooh, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry.
So I think they did it, but it's what I mean. Like I think sometimes we gotta, I couldn't be a movie critic. I'm happy to talk about movies. I want to enjoy a film. I walk into the movie theater not wanting to evaluate a movie. I want to enjoy it. I paid my $20 to have fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like going to an amusement park and jumping on a roller coaster, and the whole time you're thinking, I'm gonna evaluate how this roller coaster
All the
makes me
spins.
feel.
How the
Yeah,
this
exactly.
twist wasn't fast enough.
Oh, did they get me through the line? Did they secure me properly? How does this
You're on
feel?
the
Am I
ride with
shaking
a
enough?
clipboard. You're on a ride with a clipboard and like
Exactly.
checking off notes. Nope. Nope.
Exactly.
Upside down.
I'm here to enjoy this movie. I will give you my opinion of Kong versus Godzilla after the movie, but I will also be able to tell you the things that were good about the movie, right? At least not that were good. So that's the wrong
Or that
phrase.
you enjoyed
I can
from it.
tell you the things I enjoyed about the movie. Exactly.
And
So it's
and I
like,
see what you mean. Like, but I can see like both sides. Like, only because, but I know. not saying I'm unique, but in just in the sense that because I grew up wanting to do film, I see these things, right? I'm someone I'm constantly seeing stories, so it's not something like I'll go in the movie and be like, oh, they're gonna do that, but it'll just, that's how my mind works. My mind is putting these connections together, but then also be like, I can, like I said, get lost in the fight scene, and but especially as someone who wanted to get into films, as someone who really wanted to do visual effects and action, just love good action, right?
Mm.
My biggest thing though is like, I just want the story to make sense, right? If it makes sense, then I really don't have much to critique about it, right? If things logically make sense, you can jump a shark if you want, as long as it makes sense that there was a reason for you to jump that goddamn shark, right? Don't bring a shark to the parking lot just to jump it,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So,
exactly. Yeah,
um,
and I think movies, it's like sometimes I wonder who's writing these or who finishes the story. I
I
remember watching, a total guy show that's just a fun guy show to watch, which is Entourage, right? And then like
oh
it's
yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's just a total guy show and it's just a fun show to watch, but the I guess the season finale or the season finale movie where this Texas oil guy's son comes in and starts tearing apart this movie because he doesn't like the actor because he stole his girlfriend or what he thought was going to be his girlfriend. It's like I wonder how much that actually happens in Hollywood where I feel like I'm watching a movie sometimes and it takes such a vast left turn, such a sharp left turn, and you're like, what the hell just happened in this movie, and how did it become so bad?
I
You know?
think the problem, and I can't speak for all writers, but it's a good example of that is things like Quibi. It's not something that I have so many thoughts about, especially when it came out, and the people that got to hear me talk about it, like they understand. But it's something that, especially when I hear other people talk about it, it's like everyone's like, Quibi. Like, why do you think Quibi didn't work? And I'm like, it's clear why Quibi didn't work. It was a bunch of Hollywood elite boomers trying to make something for 20-year-olds, right? For millennials, not understanding what we like to watch, what our lives are like, and why we even watch what we watch, right? And I think, unfortunately, Hollywood can have that problem where, especially when you get to a certain level of money into these things, that a lot of these people have lost touch of who they're trying to make movies for, right? It's why for a long time superhero movies were so bad. Is because the people making superhero movies weren't into superheroes. They weren't watching these comics. They might have maybe seen a cartoon or something when they're young, but they didn't really have, like, they didn't really care, right?
Yep,
And that's
exactly.
why when you have someone like Kevin Feige come along and completely flip the game, because he's like, no, I'm a fan of these things, right? You have the Russo, but they are fan of these works, right? They really enjoy it. Like they want to the point where now they're like, you're so much that we're just gonna make you president. Is either that or Kevin Smith, right? It's either Kevin Feige or Kevin Smith to be the president of Marvel Comics. Because like that's why it finally worked. They got someone there. Like honestly, that's what DC Warner Brothers should probably do, is hire Kevin Smith and get their own Kevin Feige. Get Kevin Smith to be like, you love Batman so much, give us a good Batman for once. That could then go on for the rest of the universe, so we don't have to make 20 more with a different actor every time. Like, come on, right? Like
Yeah.
we finally had a point where it's like Marvel's done something that DC has not been able to figure out. Can we get an actor that embodies a character, right? Can we get actors and writers that embody a character, and to the
Yeah.
point where like you said, Chadwick Boseman, we can't replace him. If we're not gonna chase our T'Challa, we replace him with, if anything, replace him with another universe T'Challa and make it very clear he's other new universe, right? If we need another Tony Stark, I much rather Robert Downey Jr. as the hologram Tony Stark in the comics. There's no point in trying to bring someone. The same thing with Wolverine. We need if we're gonna go Wolverine, don't try to replace. Don't give us another Hugh Jackman. Go the complete opposite. Go full on berserker Wolverine.
I hear
Because
you, but and again, this is where you really have to think about your medium, right? So, and I think this is what is, again, talking about things I don't know anything about, but this is what's broken when it comes to television and movies, is that a comic book is eternal, right? A movie is eternal, right, for that. But the character in a comic book is eternal. The actor in a movie is not. So you're right.
Yet.
Hollywood
Yet.
has
Technology
to
is getting there.
modify. Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But Hollywood has to modify its view of what they're trying to do. If you keep trying to make an Iron Man with an Iron Man movie with an Iron Man that is something like which if you keep trying to make an Iron Man movie with Tony Stark as the world or the comic book knows him as Tony Stark, it's eventually going to fail. You keep rehashing the same story, and you keep rehashing, and you can't use the same actor, so you replace the actor, and this one isn't as loved as the other one, right? Comparing Michael Keaton's Batman to George Clooney's Batman, you
Bat
got to
nipples.
start thinking uh, differently about how you're going to do these movies, because you just can't do that transition from one medium to the next. If you're going to make one Batman movie and that's it, yes, there's one um, Titanic, right? There's not going to be a Titanic 2, 3, or 4.
I mean,
So,
there was
so
a Titanic too. It was terrible, but
oh, there was?
yeah,
Why would you make a Titanic 2?
exactly.
Telling another story on the boat?
I don't even
But
know. I don't even know what it was about, but I just know
but
that
it's
like no one
something
cares
like
about
that.
it.
So take something else like Starship Troopers. Every time oh,
They make a
again,
new one.
another.
It's just god. It's like, come on, like we barely got away with the first one. Let's.
But they at least try to put different crews in there and tell a different group story in that world. And comic books are gonna have, I mean, movies that want to be successful, comic book movies are going to want to do that, and this is what Marvel is doing. They're
Yeah.
moving on to another phase, another set of heroes in that world, right?
But
And
but your point exactly. Even the whole eternal. The reason why but the beauty of them being eternal is, like I said, I think it's just the sophisticatedness is that the elite at the top have caught up with the audience, right? Because I think that was the problem for a long time. We had just people with money. Spider-Man will sell. We'll just make Spider-Man movies. Yeah, and no more Batmans. All right, like they just didn't. You're just like, give me money. I make movie. I take cut. Right, for a lot of them, that's really how it is. Right, that's why you can get, we were talking about Melissa McCarthy, right, and why all of her movies now suck, and it's because all of her movies are directed by her husband. And it's like, wait, and it's all just Melissa, look at my wife jerk off fest. And it's like, come on, she's great. Just let her be great. Why do you have to make it all about her? Just let her be a great actress in a good movie, But it's always like, let me make how cool my wife is. And honestly, it just makes her look lame. And she's a great actress. She's funny as awesome.
she's an amazing actress.
And
She's an actress who runs the gamut. She can show the entire range of motion, from happiness to sadness to even villainy, right? And you see that, to me, these are the great actors. Is that individual, Melissa McCarthy, disappears and you see her character. And when you're
Yeah.
telling stories and laughing with your friends, recounting the movie, you're recounting the
character,
hijinks of that character, exactly.
But
And
her problem is that instead of finding more movies and doing that, they're doing oh my god, they're doing that shit that Bowl did with like video game movies, right? Where it's just like, give me money, I'll pump out garbage, and we'll just collect whatever we collect from it.
yeah,
Right?
did you see Monster Hunter?
No, one, I'm not in. I've never played the game. Two, it looks the same old. I'm not. So I wasn't like. I mean, did you?
Yes, of course. It's like monsters, swords,
Yeah, that's
I,
right
I
up your
can't
alley.
not watch
That's
that
your
movie.
alley. Giant dragon,
Exactly.
dragon-like beast. Yeah, that's your shtick.
Exactly. I can't not watch that.
Well, did you like it?
I turn it on and I hope for the best. Um, I, I was entertained, you know, a little bit better than I feel like if I was gonna, put it on my like scale, so we'll just call it that. I would rate it a little bit above um, Godzilla versus Kong.
Alright,
And
that
again,
sounds like
I feel like it's a movie that had a lot of
But
potential.
was it
Uh,
Ubol that made it? No.
was it what?
Ubol. That's his fucking name. He's like German or Dutch or some shit like that. Ubol or
Uh,
something crazy. It's like some
her
crazy.
husband made it, didn't it? Didn't her husband direct it?
I have no idea, but I don't think she's married to that dude. But yeah, he was this guy that kind of like, you remember all like the old really crappy video game movies like Bloodborne, uh, Dark Moon, fuck, there's like so many. There was like just trash. But he was like, he was the reason that video game movies had a bad name, right? Because he would get like investors to give him money, producers to give him money for this movie, pump out the cheapest movie he could pump out, and then just like collect, the revenue, right? Collect what's left over and collect, for money, and would just do this over and over, and that was his career. That's how I think, until the point where I think he just got blacklisted from the industry. I think at a certain point, like, people just realized like who he was, and like America, like Hollywood blacklisted him. I don't know if he still does it like in his countries over there, but like that's why after a while, like people who are familiar with the era of bad video games movies remember that motherfucker, and
So it
also
was
remember that he
written.
just disappeared.
It was written by her husband, Paul W.S. Anderson,
Okay,
right? So he
yeah,
wrote
so
it,
yeah, so
and
I
it
mean, it
was
could be good.
directed
I
by
don't know.
him too.
So yeah, it could be good.
Uh,
I don't know, but I'm just more talking about just the the trend of the people that get into Hollywood just to profit off of it, right? Just to make
oh yeah.
just to make garbage content, collect the money from producers. Because now that things are changed into streaming, there is no like kind of back end of I'm gonna collect also ticket revenue. It's I'm gonna take what Netflix gives me, make a movie out of it, and I guess they collect whatever, right? But it seems that that's the case. Like, I don't know if how often you're on Netflix, but like Miss McCarthy just released a movie called Thunder Squad with Octavia, with that black woman Octavia who played Ma, in that horror movie Ma. Both. So again, a movie with two great elderly women, not elderly, older woman actresses. Not elderly. I'm pretty sure they're like only in their 40s, but older women actresses. Funny, something you don't often see is funny older women in movies, right? Especially those that are great actresses, right? That can hold their own, and like I said, in every medium. And they're like, why are you in this? Right? Like, why are you wasting your talents in this? Like, just like I'd say, like, either just watch the trailer for Thunder Squad and you'll understand, and you'll be like, oh my god.
Yeah, I saw it.
Right, you
I
saw,
saw it.
so you get what I mean, right? And even then, like I was talking to Pasty about how it could have been really good. Like, if you remember the movie Red, with Bruce Willis, how it was
Yes.
like, right, and how it was kind of like a lampoon of like spy, but what if all these people were just old? They're just kind of out of their prime, but they're still kind of kick ass. It could have been like that. Older superheroes that kind of might not have any, that kind of keep trying to keep up with the younger kids, but still able to hold their own, and they're funny. Like, man, they could have killed that. Those women would have killed that roles. Instead, it's just like, it just seemed like, what can we get some cheap laughs out of? And
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. And again, it's a superhero movie, and it's got two of my favorite actors in it. So I've got to at least give it a try and see if it's funny. And I think I think I'm more than willing to watch a superhero comedy. I'm more than willing to
yeah,
watch a superhero
and
horror.
we need those.
You
That's what I'm
know.
saying. We need those. It's just I just don't like it's become, because they're so profitable, because they're the thing that is, they are the meta of movies right now. Now people are realizing, like, now I could just make a cheap superhero movie and whatever, and it's nothing. It's just like, come on. And like I said, I want it to be good, but it's like that scene where Melissa McCarthy does a backflip on the Lamborghini. It's like, what are we doing? What are
She's
we
a
doing?
superhero. Why can't she do it? Just because she's a she's carrying a couple of extra pounds,
No,
and
no, no,
you know,
because not even a
guy
grown,
got
because I
dope.
wouldn't even believe a grown man do it. I'm like, one, a Lamborghinis aren't structured to hold that kind of weight. Two, you're surfing on it. Three, you're gonna do a backflip while moving. Do you understand how physics works? I can do backflips. I know how that shit works. Do you
All I'm saying
can you
is,
fly as well, Melissa? Because if I would believe it, if maybe you can fly, but she can't. It doesn't
all
look
I'm
like she
saying
can
is,
fly.
all I'm saying is, a
It just
2 second
looks. It
Google
just.
search will show you 30 movies that have someone backflipping onto the top of the vehicle while it's moving. So
Onto the
why can't
vehicle,
Melissa
not
McCarthy do
not
it?
not while it's moving, not while it's moving. Backflip and like it, like you can see her grab the wires doing a backflip on the Lamborghini,
Well,
right? Like again, as
I don't
someone,
know about the grab the wire part, but like I said, I think a 30-second Google search will
and I think
show
they're all
you where this has been done 100 times.
and I think they're cheesy as well, right? I think
Okay, as long as you say that,
like I
right?
said,
Because don't tell me that you want to see
like
Guy Gadot do it, but you don't want to see Melissa
no, I
McCarthy do
don't,
it.
I don't. I just like I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like that car, like. Like as someone who, like I said, as someone who does backflips, as someone who does like, you know, as someone who tricks, right, and understands like one, the physics of it, two, like the danger of it, right, of like just fucking up, like, oh, the ground under me moved slightly, so I'm definitely gonna tumble backwards, right? It's like,
See, I think you're the wrong audience, right? Because
yeah.
you know, lawyers always say they hate watching law movies because the characters are saying things that are just ridiculous and don't make sense. And cops say the same thing, right? They hate watching cop movies because the characters are, and I've seen it
The
with
characters are
military
good.
movies.
The characters are helping people.
So I've seen it with military movies where, you know, I was just watching, what is it, Black Sun, and the beginning of the movies, the military is trying to evacuate the town, and everybody has a beard. And I'm like, why does
Why?
everyone in the army have a full-on, nicely
Like
sculpted
when did they cut that?
beard? What? It's like, are you kidding me? What
It's
is
so hard to
going
be
on here?
maintained. Like, aren't you crawling in dirt?
Well, no, I mean, you can't do it, right? You,
Like barbed
special
wires
forces
and
can do
shit?
it. Special forces can do it when they're out in the field and when they might need to be fit in, but you know, you're not gonna find Sergeant Jimmy in the middle of town on his duty helping people out with a full-on beard that's nicely groomed
Well,
and
you know what?
sculpted.
You said something great earlier. You said something because I'm not the right audience. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right. Because
exactly.
the audience for that was dude bros. Like, yeah, it's like those guys that dress up like on TikTok like they're in the military, like some look at my guns and like those guys that pretend like they're. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
segueing.
but yeah, but no, I get what you mean. But even just then, like that's just my point. You know, before we go back, it's just we for a long time superhero movies were in that genre, right? Of just like no one gave it, like who gives a shit who's seeing it. The people were marketing to we don't give a fuck about that. They don't know any better, right? Until they realize like, oh shit, they do, right? In fact, you know, we're seeing that in the same way, like before, you know, not to get on the chip, we're seeing that with Black Horror, right? Where because Jordan Peele showed that, hey, yo, we're a market and we're sophisticated. Now everybody's doing it. Unfortunately, some of them aren't great, right? Now they're just low-hanging fruit stuff again. We're starting to get those, which to me, I've always said I'm fine with. I want us to be free to make the kind of garbage that everyone else makes, and it be okay, and it not be representative of everything we do. That's all.
I got you. You got to watch them.
I honestly heard that. I heard it wasn't great. I heard some people like some,
Oh my God, they're crazy.
but it's
So good,
but yeah,
but
guys,
it's hard to watch.
yeah,
It's so good.
I've heard the people that don't like it is because, and it could, and like it's from the internet, so I take it with a grain of salt if they really were like what they say were, but from some black people just not liking, I guess, like everything is pandering to race and stuff, which I can get, right? Where everything when it comes to black horror is about race, but you know,
That's what the story's about. It's
yeah. No, but I mean,
but it is so first it's 100% not just pandering to race. Uh, but the overarching umbrella is the experience of a black family during that time. And just like today, a lot of it is due to race, the things that they are having to deal with. And there is absolutely no pandering. Some of the scenes are hard to watch, and if anything, right, they are toning down what really has happened, and this is the problem with these types of movies. It's
Yeah.
like no one
No one wants
wants
to
to
go.
really
Yeah,
talk about the
I
atrocities.
don't want to watch that shit. The pictures I see online, I don't want to watch that. The literal barbecues they had with our bodies. Yeah, no, thank you. I
Yeah,
don't need to see that
I
on the
hear
big
you.
screen.
But here's the problem with that, right? First of all, it's I still don't want to get into politics
Yeah,
on this stuff. But first of all, it become when you're not shown these images, it becomes too easy for those to say that it never happened. When you're not told about these experiences, when they haven't been captured, and some of these are just captured by history, just by the simple death count in a town going from on Monday 2 people died to the following weekend 600 people died, right? Just acknowledging that. So,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah. Not to be.
it's
Yeah,
too easy for people to say that these things that actually exist that are harmful to humanity, and not simply the black race, because if you're harming the black race or any race, you're harming humanity. But anyways,
yeah. This. Yeah, not to
so
get. But to
as
me,
hard as
I
it is
believe.
this,
I think school. I think that's the place for school. I think we need when everyone needs to see that young in school. I don't think movies and
no,
Hollywood is the place to
I don't agree. I
I
don't
and
agree.
at least the deeper like the real twisted stuff. I think school is a place because but also educator. Because the problem is just that it doesn't. You know what I mean? Because teachers don't know about it. So teachers are you know what I mean. But but being able to get these things in the context when the story like the fact that this isn't just something that's happening or some story. This is American history. And I think that's the best way as opposed to be like, oh no, that's just a movie. And like, no, this is American history because you learned this in school. But
So
I'm gonna have to cut this whole thing out, for certain people anyway. So if I
yeah,
decide to,
I got you. And
yeah,
yes, and excuse me. When we talk just us, I'll tell you I'll tell you the story why I don't believe it's just history, because it's happening still
no,
today.
no,
But
I don't
we'll
mean
talk more
just
about
history,
that.
but I mean like it's part of American history. It's something that like that we need that context of like, no, this isn't because movies it's so easy to ignore that. That's why I say school. It's easy to pretend like it doesn't happen or doesn't or not watch it. It's easy like I don't want to watch it. It's not for me. Like we saw the other time. We saw the shit with Black Panther, right? But in school, but it's part of the curriculum when it's part of U.S. history. That's when in the show that it's not just in history, but it's happening today. But when it's movies, when it's things like you can ignore that. Right, you could, when it's entertainment, you could, those as often they do. They just pretend it's not like them. They're doing that with when it comes to school. They want to make sure that these things aren't taught in school. Critical race theory is being fought against.
Yeah.
But again,
But
but
again, we're going too far off the
but
tangent. And
but I want to go into your thing about Invincible and him growing up. It One of those things like I think is a great point in terms of comics that we don't get is, and it's something that I would have been really interested to see if he would have done it if Mr. McDuffie, Dwayne McDuffie, never passed away, and he continued to like kind of at least direct the vision of Static, because he didn't write all the issues. He was the editor of them, of all the original ones, but by the time he got back into his own comic, he got his own comic again, like in the New 52, he was already he already passed, or I think he just passed. So he wasn't involved in it at all, and they did, like you said, they just went back to he's still 16, or I think like he's just maybe a year older, but these were back in the 90s, right? He came out in the 90s at 16, right? So in 2010 he's still, or 14, right? 2010 he's 16 years old, right? As
yeah,
opposed to older and being one thing I really loved, and it's why like I have the plans I do in terms of when I make my games is Static, not Static, is Spider-Man, is the video game. They deliberately didn't base it on any storyline, and even try to like it's like kind of in its own universe, but they aged him up. and he's actually in his like early 20s. But even though his character model and kind of the story kind of felt like it was a little bit more in his late 20s, which I really enjoyed. And people felt weird when they changed his model to make it look, and it looked like Tom Holland. They basically changed his model to look like Tom Holland, and it was like, it looks so weird. It looks like a baby, like a baby head. But it was an interesting take on the character. It was like, you know, this is a Spider-Man that isn't learning how to use his powers. This is a Spider-Man that's been using his powers for a long time, right? For nearly a decade. He's adept at it. He knows his villains. The only person that you get who you see, only villain's backstory you see that comes to fruition is Octopus. Everyone else is already their villain, right? Or someone he's fought against. But you get to see, but you know, they changed the story where you actually have a relationship with Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock. So like that was to me it was an interesting take of like, you know, an older Peter Parker, right, and the kind of things he would go through, and eventually be able to see like, I mean, I think we've gotten glimpses of him being like older, you know, when he has like his daughter, I guess, but like those aren't, like you said, it almost seems like it's always reverted back to him being a teen, you know, being young 20, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always gone back to that. But I guess that's the audience they're going after. So
yeah, but so I'm kind of hoping that, but that's kind of a, like when you let me know about like, oh, someone like the static images you saw, like I knew about that because I knew Milestone was bringing back a lot of their old Milestone lines. But it doesn't look like he's gonna be that much older. It looks like at most he might be like 18. But to me, like what I found was very interesting is that Dwayne McDuffie did a 20 or 25 year anniversary issue of Milestone, and basically did the future of all of his characters. So you got to see Static, you got to see Virgil older, right? You got to see him married to Frida, and you got to see him that he had 2 children, right? And actually gave up being Static. So there's actually in Dwayne McDuffie's canonical future, canon, there is a Static has given up being Static by 30, but also he is written for he's written for Justice League and Static Shock, and he has written that in those cartoons that he has actually taken back up his mantle when he's older. So we've actually seen a 30-year-old Static, and we've seen a 60-year-old Static, because he even said 60 is the new 30. Right? Because John, Green Lantern John is like, you look good. And he's like, 60 is the new 30. Right? So I like things like that, like getting to see how how the heroes progress in age over time, right? And
yeah, I think that's important.
I think movies actually have that unique medium where it makes sense to do that, right? It makes sense to, age our people up over time, right? It makes it hard for certain characters that are inherently immortal, like Wolverine and but even then, like I said, they do Wolverine, like fine, then we'll just skip forward in time far enough where he might actually die, right? Same thing with Xavier, right? So they do stuff like that, but you can and the technology is getting to a point where we're able to age down Steve Rogers, right? The same way we're able to shrink him down to make emaciated. They've aged them down to make him look old. So we can do those things where we can actually see aging Tony. They can do storylines like an aging Tony Stark if he ever does come back to life, right? Do things like progress with the story with his daughter, right? Like instead of just being like, well, he had a daughter, maybe he doesn't have a daughter, we'll go back to another universe, he doesn't have a kid. Well, in this universe we established he has a kid. So what are we gonna do about her, right? And actually create some interesting storylines. And as we see in the comics, they go off of their storylines. They're going off of everything. They're testing the storylines there. So I think I think they're just going on a good direction. And it sucks that they own everything, but if I guess for someone for someone to own everything, at least they're doing it right. Disney's at least doing this medium right. Can't say for Star Wars fans. I don't know how they feel about their stuff, but
Yeah, I haven't read any of the latest Star Wars books. I'm still enjoying it. I like the Force Awakens trilogy, so I enjoyed that. I
but
did.
but yeah, but I think that's a good mark for the end of the show. This is TheoristCast with Lucid,
And Pop Bot.
and we'll see you guys next week.